Yeah. Okay. He's actually a really good friend of mine. Yeah. That's awesome.
Good. Now let's see if the actual presentation shows up. Fingers crossed. Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? I sound audible. How's everybody doing? Welcome to CS160/CS260A. This is our introduction overview, all the coverage we've got in computer science of user interface design and human-computer interaction. So that is very exciting. I'm Andy. Welcome. If you can't fit into the room, or you can't see the screen, or you can't hear me, or you just don't want to be here, the overflow room is up in the WAS, up on the 4th floor. So feel free to move up there if it's more to your comfort. They will be taking attendance up there in addition to down here. So hopefully somewhere out here we have some sign-in sheets going. Is that true? Sweet. So it's going around, sign in, find your name on it, put your name down. This is part of the enrollment process, which will be draconian and Hunger Games-esque, and we will get to that later in the day. But for now, I want to start talking about user interface design, because that's what we're here for, right? So this is our introduction class. I'm Andy. That's me. Hi, Andy. This is the course website. Very important. It's going to be on a bunch of the slides throughout the thing. But we will also be using e-courses and Piazza and like every other piece of classroom technology we could cram into the course. So that's very exciting. So user interfaces. We're going to start every course that we can, every lecture that we can, by looking at some UIs. Some old, some new, some from previous slides, some new exciting stuff. And what I want you guys to do, we're going to try to make this as interactive as possible, given that I have like 120 people in this room and like 90 upstairs someplace. What's going on here? What do you think of this user interface? Raise your hand. I'll shout at you, that sort of thing. Yo, tell me your name, please.
My name is Nina, and I wouldn't want to write that down.
I like how it blinks in and out. That's a good feature also. You wouldn't want to write that down. Why not? What's?
Because it's long, and also some characters are just kind of hard to read, and it feels like you should just be able to save it somewhere.
All right, so it's long and it's squished together and it's kind of awkward. That's true. Yo.
My name is Steven, and by auto-focusing the OK button,
Mm-hmm.
make it easy for the user to lose that password by hitting space or enter.
Okay, very easy. If you touch anything to like move on without having actually written this down. Agreed? Please.
My name is Annie, and it looks like if you like write down the password wrong, you're never going to be able to upgrade the software.
Probably true. That seems bad. What else we got? Can think of at least one or two horrible more things. Yeah.
I'm Alex, and you can't like copy the password directly by selecting it with this UI.
Okay, there's no obvious way to copy it, to save it for your future use. True. Yep.
I'm Jimmy, and a minimize button might be useful.
Minimize button might be useful. Also, what's going on with this button? That X there, what do you suppose that does? And the fundamental question is it functionally equivalent to this OK button, or is it something else? I don't know, probably. Probably it's the same as the OK button. Yeah.
Are the single quotes part of the password, or just a coincidence, or is it quoting the password?
I hope it's coincidence and that it's part of the password. That would make me very happy. Yeah.
If you write it down, you might think that the O's are zeros or otherwise.
You might indeed. What was your name?
Spencer.
Thank you, Spencer. So this is an example of something that like has obvious glaring flaws, and yet I believe is actually from a real product. Comes from something horrible. If you go to that Stack Overflow site, somebody modded it down and closed it, which is sad. Talk to me about this thing. So this is where we kind of came from, way back in the 1980s and before. We were in a kind of command line world What's good and bad about this thing? Right up here.
I'm Linda, and I think there's a pretty, not very steep learning curve now that we have the internet available to us, but if you didn't have like any sort of previous knowledge, you wouldn't really know what to do with the command line.
So there is some assumption of, ability coming in here. It's very difficult to learn. That is true. What else?
Tim, the default display is very difficult to read. It's difficult to differentiate between the commands you've entered and what it's trying to display. It all kind of blends together with the colors, the spacing.
Okay, so there's some kind of graphic presentation issues here where it's a little bit hard to tell input from output. I agree. Anything good about this? We used them for a long time. Why?
Easy to develop.
Easy to develop, true. There's one other key thing that is arguably good about this. Yeah.
It's pretty efficient.
Yeah, so if you happen to know exactly what you're doing and you know how to script it and you know what all the commands you want to use are, then in that circumstance, it's probably reasonably efficient. It's probably not too bad. So, it's not an all bad thing, the command line. So we went from the command line and we moved on to sort of the world of desktops and Windows and things. Here's a screenshot from very early in Windows 7's lifespan. I don't know why everything's blinky. You're just gonna have to live with that apparently. So this is the desktop. What's good or bad about it? What's interesting about Windows desktop? Yep.
The user has some control over what it looks like.
Okay, so the user has some control over what it looks like. It looks like something. That's a start. The previous thing didn't look like anything. Yep.
It's more intuitive. You don't have to necessarily type out open or any particular instruction to actually open an application.
What was your name?
Others.
So you can just kind of what we in the HCI world call recognize over recall, how this thing works and what you might want to click. Please.
I'm Emily, and it makes it very easy to do common tasks like
Yeah, so like the things that you really want to do, like launch Chrome, which is basically the only thing anybody does on a desktop anymore, are really handy. That's convenient. Cool. What about what's going on up here? What do you think of this thing? Good, bad, way back left.
It is allow the user to more easily access the application without having to go inside the application.
Indeed. What was your name? Matt? Hi, Matt. Yes, so there's information available. It's accessible without having to go into an application. True. Yep.
When it's fired, it's redundant because you're displaying the same information twice on the same screen.
Indeed. So we've got a calendar up here and then this little widgety guy down here. That is true. What is unusual about this desktop compared to every desktop you've ever actually seen in your life? What makes this screenshot weird? There's something weird on it?
It's not cluttered.
Yeah, like I can tell what the hell is going on. That is very unusual. Like give this guy 2 weeks with Windows 7 and there's going to be everything he's downloaded off of the internet onto his desktop. So, it's cool. It is what it is. The idea of the desktop famously comes from, this metaphor of we want to represent what is on an actual desktop, objects that people use in their everyday lives and make it kind of intuitive to them how to use the computer. So, the trash can looks like a trash can, aren't we clever? And the computer looks like a computer and blah, blah, blah. The idea is that people can bring something from their world into the computing thing and have some familiarity with it before needing to learn anything. I have a question for you, though. How many of you, raise your hand, use a desktop, like an actual, like a desk? Like you have a desktop and there's a trash can there and you've got like a inbox, outbox, and you've got like all the things that are up here and typically part of the desktop metaphor. Got maybe 5% of the room. And so the question I would pose to you, and I have no intention of answering today, but we'll get into this later in the course, is the desktop metaphor relevant anymore? Are people so far into computing at this point that it doesn't really make sense anymore to say, yeah, it's like your desk that you maybe had back in 1992. Like, does that really make sense anymore? I don't know. We'll think about it. It's also easy to get a little out of control. So here's a screenshot I found of somebody else's Windows 7 desktop. What is going on here? Somebody tell me about this user interface. Right here.
Oksana. It's super cluttered and there are a lot of redundant icons.
Yeah, so I see like Yahoo like 3 times, and I see, I'm scared, frankly. What else we got? Right here.
I'm Leo. The person obviously used a bunch of desktop-like enhancements and probably slowed the entire thing down significantly.
I am suspicious of the fact that they're using like 60% of RAM, and they don't seem to actually be running any program. That's probably not a good sign. I don't even know how to do this. That's kind of neat. This is presumably just artistic arrangement of icons, I guess. Maybe some app did that for you. What's going on over here? As far as I know, it's just like the calendar widget from hell. I know it's hard to see, but I think it's like, you know, telling you, so this is calendar, this is telling you weekdays, weekends, and then these tabs let you do something. I don't know, it's bad. And what's interesting about this is that this was on a website that was advertising this as like, look at my kick-ass, like customized desktop. This thing is awesome. Is it? I don't know. So that's the desktop metaphor. One can imagine very easily going one more step past the desktop metaphor into the sort of whole home metaphor. Who knows what this thing is? I'm curious, genuinely curious. Who has seen this before? Wow, harsh. You guys know what it is? It's got a name.
Microsoft Bob.
There you go, it's Microsoft Bob. So back in the Windows ME, really late in the like 98 SE era, so we're talking late 90s, somebody at Microsoft, who probably is not at Microsoft anymore, had an idea that, all right, if this is a cool idea to have the desktop, why don't we have the whole house? You know, so if you want your calendar, you click your calendar. If you want to change the time, you click the clock. If you want to browse the internet, you click whatever that is. You know, you got your Rolodex, you've got your box of money, you've got your dog that wants to tell you things. All right, so what do you think about this thing? Good? Bad? Do we use this today? Why not? Yeah.
My name's Melissa. You can't really tell what's an icon and what's part of the image.
It's very interesting. It almost has a feel, if you've ever played any like point and click adventure games, like you would need to try tapping everything to see if coins come out. Yeah, agreed. It's very hard to tell what's like interactivity and what's flourish. Any other thoughts? Please.
Anna, and just kind of along the same vein, it just seems unnecessarily colored, and like you don't need a living, like what are you gonna do with a chair in your computer?
I assume you sit. Yeah, so the aesthetics are interesting. There are things here that I can't explain to you, like why does this window have like a farm behind it and that one has like a jungle? I don't know. Yeah, what does clicking the flowers do? I want to find out, but I don't know. Yeah.
If I want to add extra like functionality or extra like scalability to it, it's not obvious to me how I would do that. Like if I want to add a new thing that I can do to my house, do I have to like install new furniture? Like, what's the metaphor with it?
Right. Yeah. No idea. Absolutely no idea. There's one more in the back. Anything? Okay. All right. So this did not catch on. You'll be shocked to learn. In fact, if anything, I think we've sort of gone, by the way, I found an awesome thread while I was looking for this screenshot of people who are trying to get this running on Windows 8. Trying to like port Microsoft Bob to Windows 8. So if you're looking for a good open source project, jump right on that. So anyway, we've kind of gone the other direction, away from this like elaborate metaphor 3D house talking dog thing to something that looks more like this. So what is this? It's Android. It's my home screen. What's good or bad about this thing? Yeah.
My name is Donald. The most important functionalities are easily accessible at the bottom.
Okay, so the things that, for whatever reason, I consider the most important are right there, ready for me to use them. That's nice. Yeah.
JT, and there's notifications at the top to see if you have any apps that might need your attention.
Yeah, it's a little noisy, like 7 things want to talk to me right now, but I can live with that. At least it's telling me. Yeah.
Marcus,
Hi, Marcus.
your clocks are out of sync, so you don't know which one's right.
Are they? Wow, cool. I must have caught. Huh. Good catch. I must have caught that on like a really bad frame, because there's no way that lasts very long, right? Huh, cool. Anything else? Yeah.
Gives you a preview of what all you're connected to, whether it's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or all your connections. Right?
Yeah, so like all this crap up here is at least telling me something. You'll notice that like if you look at early iPhones, they didn't have a lot of that stuff because it's kind of an anti-Jobsian sort of thing to have all that clutter around. Now it's slowly creeping back in because people expect it. It's become more a like expected part of the experience. All right, yeah.
It automatically like pulls the information that you need for the day.
It does. Isn't that nice of it? What was your name?
Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. Yeah, so it's got an agenda on there. That's not trivial to do on Android. You like have to figure out how to make that happen, but I like it. Yeah.
Looks like it's built for people that are right-handed, as far as like the refresh button goes.
Yeah.
Top right.
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
were
that's true.
left-handed, you reach over.
What was your name?
Pierre.
Hi, Pierre. Yeah, so it's probably a little bit more convenient for a righty, especially because my phone is very large. So like getting over there actually wouldn't be trivial if you were of the opposite hand. One more right here.
It's kind of nice that even though it's a smaller screen, it takes advantage of like that navigation bar that allows you to know like which screen you're at and like being able to use a more efficient space of like the small screen space that you have compared to like a desktop.
Yeah, it's handy. What was your name?
Allison.
Hi, Allison. Yeah, although I'll tell you something that drives me nuts about that, which is that the home one isn't in the middle. That always bothered me. All right, so we've come all the way from like command line to desktops to houses to now we're going back to a kind of more flat, less metaphorical design. Talk to me about this thing. So what is this? Yeah, good college students. Tell me about what's good or bad here, besides the horrific social implications. What's good or bad about the interface? Right here.
I mean, again, but it focuses on the information. There's not a whole lot of other stuff.
Okay.
It's getting the screen space.
Very Spartan. It comes straight to the point. Yeah.
It seems a little low contrast as far as text versus background.
Yeah, I would use a different font were I constructing the yak. Other thoughts? Back in the back.
Ingress seems kind of intuitive when you press like up or down arrow.
Okay. What do they do? Okay. It increases or decreases the number, but what the hell does that number mean? Yeah.
I'm Leo again. It showed you everything, even the thing that the number indicate that are not popular.
True. Indeed. Some poor schmuck got downvoted. Yeah.
I'm Victoria, and I feel like it requires a pretty solid knowledge of already how UIs work, because I feel like if you didn't know that pulling down refreshes it, you wouldn't know how to refresh the page.
Yep.
And it doesn't auto-refresh.
Yep. So there is a massive amount of stuff, preconceived notions of what you as the user know about modern mobile interface design baked into this thing, and indeed modern social networks in general. So, this number, if I just showed this interface to somebody from 1993, there's no way they would figure out what that number means. It's a sort of score of how many times it's been upvoted, downvoted, how popular it is. And you know that because maybe you've been on Reddit, and Reddit did it because Dig did it, and Dig did it because some other people did it first. And it's been just 15 years of this sort of progression where we get to the point where we can just put these arrows here and people will figure out what in the world you're supposed to do with it. I think that's very interesting, actually. I also want you all to appreciate how long it took me to find an entire Yik Yak screen that I could screenshot and show in this class. That was not easy. All right, I'm going to show you 1 or 2 videos here. We're running a little behind, but hey, what the hell? Let's see. Bring this over here. And if we're really lucky, this will work.
Pretty well. You did some calibration earlier. Just make sure that you have enough room. We had to tilt it a little bit because the couch is in the way. So, okay, let's move on. Take a break if you're tired, obviously. And let's see what's next. Just loading up the game. See, because you can change your avatar to make it look like you. It's a fun game, because as you can see, I'm already breaking a sweat. It's like exercise. So we skip that, and go to start menu, to dance your stats options, buy some new dances. We're going to go ahead and dance, because that's what you probably want to see. And there's songs up here that are kind of like warm up, and then and you can go a little bit lower, and then there's some ones.
All right, you get the idea. So there was a lot going on there that she kind of glossed over. But tell me a bit about that user interface. Yeah.
I feel like if you didn't watch a tutorial or something, you have no idea what to do in order to make things work.
For those who don't know, this is the Kinect. It's the Kinect for the 360, not the Xbox One, and it's Dance Central, which came out in 2010, something like that. And who's played Dance Central? That's sad. There was a brief window in time when really everybody thought maybe this would be the future. That window didn't last very long, but it was a good try, I think. So what do you think about the mechanics of this I'm gonna wave my arm and hover and boom and blah blah blah? We've decided that it's not very learnable or discoverable. Here. Okay, true, I agree. Yep.
Leo again, it's a little bit concerning that she broke out in a sweat navigating the menu.
Yeah, well, so I'm concerned both for her and for the design, right? Should your UI make someone tired? In this case, maybe it is kind of billed as an exercise program. Fine, maybe it's a good thing to
So you're not, she said she had to calibrate it for the gesture to be recognized, so somebody else comes in.
Yeah, although I actually don't know what she's talking about there because I don't remember that being part of the process. But yes, she does mention something about calibration. I guess you had to set up the connect, so that's true. Right here.
She said she had to go around the furniture for it to recognize accurately.
So yeah, you get into this space, and it's really interesting to think about. So I mean, it's you can laugh at it when it's a video game and it's dancing and hooray. But imagine that you were like really minority reporting up a user interface and like gonna do this whole thing. You could imagine like having to actually relay out office space to keep people from like hitting each other in the face. If you've been in any of the like colo offices in San Francisco, like bam, you just hit 3 people. All right, other thoughts? Connect? Back there.
So the game made sure to teach her the gesture without using words.
It did. So games are thought of, and often it's true, of being good at teaching people how to use them. So that's a cool thing. The process of learning a UI is something that game developers are frankly better at than a lot of software engineers. So now actually executing those UIs, not as good, but yeah, back there. No. No, that is the entire concept of the game. And then I also want to say, like, my favorite thing is there's a screen that she went through really quickly, but it's like the initial, here's the title of the game screen. And to make it go away, you just do this wipe away gesture, but it's not mentioned anywhere that like you do that. And so you almost have to have like been paying attention to the tutorials just to figure out how to make the title screen go away. So I think it's exciting for everyone. All right, so I have 2 more of these, but I think we just don't have time. So we'll hit those on Thursday. They're very exciting, though. All right, so who the hell am I? Hi, I'm Andy. I'm Andy Carl. I am the lecturer for this course. What I really do is I am user experience architect at the Kenoma group at Marvell Semiconductor, which is down in Santa Clara. And basically what I do professionally is I'm a prototype engineer. I'm head of prototype engineering for our team. I do UX strategy, which is the kind of business development, long-term product planning side of user experience and user interface design. So it's about like, what do we build next and what does the product roadmap look like for the next N years and why will anybody care, that sort of thing. And then I also run all of our usability science efforts. So I do user studies and run heuristic evaluations and all these fun things that we'll be talking about in this course. Basically, I am the one HCI person for a 7,000 person company. That's fundamentally what I do. I'm also a Berkeley guy, so I did my PhD here in human-computer interaction, PhD in computer science. I was advised by John Canny, if you know John. He's a luminary in robotics and HCI and data analysis and many other things. For fun, I'm a big gamer. I do a lot of tabletop games, board games, video games, games, and I also curl. So if you want to get into curling, I know where to send you. It's the thing with the ice and the rocks and the brooms. It's fun. Solid. My main product at Kenoma is a thing called Kenoma Create. It is a device prototyping toolkit. So it's a prototyping platform for people that want to build new consumer electronics devices. And we'll get a little bit more into Kenoma later in this lecture because guess what? It's not going away for the rest of the semester. This is my teaching staff. Very exciting. Andrew, Shayna, Steve, Peggy. Peggy's right here. Wait, hi. Andrew was somewhere. Yeah. Hey, Shayna's back there. Hi. And Steve is up running the overflow room right now with the forgotten souls who didn't fit into here. Hi. Excellent. So today I have a lot of things to get through and not a whole lot of time. So I'm just going to start cranking through this stuff. The first bit and the most unpleasant bit is enrollment. So this is my artist representation of what it would look like if we crammed all of you that are currently on the wait list into this room. If you hadn't noticed, we are indeed oversubscribed. And the problem is that not only do we have 244 people currently enrolled or waitlisted in the course and like 103 seats in this room, it's not even just about the room size, it's about how you scale a design course. So unlike something like, say, CS160, where it would be mostly problem set based and like somebody can just sit there and crank through and grade things, all the work in this class is really qualitative, really subjective, really takes a long time to grade, to present, to everything else. And so we just can't take everybody. Nobody wants to take everybody more than I do, but unfortunately there is no way to avoid disappointing most people in the class. We will make decisions as quickly as possible so that those who don't get into the class can move on with their lives. We'll try to get that done over the weekend. Unfortunately, we can't really do it this week, but we'll do it over the weekend. And again, I apologize. I'll try to cram as much content into today's lecture so that those of you who don't make it into the class will go out into the world, knowing 90-ish% of what you need to know. I'll do my best. And once we make our enrollment decisions, that's it. Sorry, we have to form groups and everything else. So how do you avoid getting dropped? Well, one, it helps if you somehow magically got enrolled for the course. Congratulations to those few of you that did that. For everybody on the wait list, and actually everybody in general, you must sign in today. There's going to be a theme to these slides. If you do not, we will drop you. So find the sign-in sheet if you haven't. If you're up in the WAS, find the sign-in sheet up there. Make sure that you let us know that you were here, because if you didn't bother coming to lecture, that's a really, really easy way to catch you from the class. You must attend section tomorrow. So sections are from 12 to 4 in 1-hour chunks. I don't care what section you're enrolled for, just show up for something tomorrow. And at least cram your way into the room long enough to put your name on the sign-in sheet. First come, first served on actually attending the sections, but like clamor in and get in there as best you can, and definitely sign in. You must submit a reading response before lecture on Thursday. We'll talk more about how that's going to work, but the first reading for the course is up on the website, and you've got to submit that on B courses before lecture on Thursday, or I will drop you. You must submit the online petition by end of day Thursday. I'm an industry dude, so I'm going to say end of day a lot. End of day, 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. No bullshit. I don't want to hear anything about where the day ends. So end of day Thursday, submit the course petition. It's brief. It's broken into 2 parts. One part is the actual course petition, and then the second little bit of it is just a few questions to help us put people into groups, but not relevant for actually getting into the course. You must do a short design exercise by end of day Friday. So individual design assignment Uno is on B courses. It will be linked from the webpage very shortly. It is, we'll get into it actually a little bit later, but it's a design exercise where you need to go out in the world and interview a couple of people to learn about how they use technology. And the point of this is that this is a course where you got no choice but to go interact with the world. Most of the computer science curriculum is very introspective. We are a very outward-facing sort of course. So I want you to get out there into Berkeley and find some people and chat with them. And that will be due by the end of the day on Friday. If you don't submit that, you are toast. One bit of warning. This class is considered a heavy workload class, even amongst 4-unit upper division-y sort of courses. HKN will tell you that it's a little on the high side of the scale. If you ask people around, they'll say it's even higher. It is a pretty serious project-based, lots of coding, lots of design work, lots of writing, lots of reading. If this is your kind of introduction to project-based courses, be aware that it's pretty serious business. I would not, for instance, necessarily take this course and another big project-based course, just because it's too much to handle all at once. If you have any questions about that, let us know. So the bottom line is, if this is not the class for you, drop it. Get out of here. Let somebody else that really wants to be here do this. That said, we want everybody that's excited about it to be able to get in. This is offered every semester. That's why I'm here, to help fill in the gaps between the cycles so that we can keep getting people into the course. And I also believe it will be offered this summer, though the admissions process for the summer, if you think this is scary, like summer admissions is even more scary, but it will indeed be offered this summer. So if this is not the class for you, drop it, get off the wait list, let us put the people that really want to be here in here. Any questions about that? Yeah.
Is it confirmed for the summer or just like in the works?
Let me double check before anybody gets like their hopes completely set on it, but I know they've hired staff for it, so it's a good sign. Anything else? Please.
Do grad students still need to go to resection?
I would, yes. Yeah, so if you're enrolled in 260A, turn up for a section. Who all here is in 260A? Just out of curiosity. Oy. All right. So we also have a wait list for 260A. I will do my best to process that in exactly the same way we're processing. Dear God. In the exact same way as we're processing the 160 wait list. I checked and made sure that no undergrads tried to sneak in on the 260A wait list. I would have been on to you. That would have been a really good way to get dropped. Yeah.
Is everything you mentioned on the courses?
Yeah. Maybe. It will be by tonight, if not. Everything I mentioned is definitely on the website. So go there. And assignment 1 is on B courses, and the reading response is on B courses. The petition is actually a Google form. It's linked from Piazza, and it's linked from the course website. It is not, I don't think, currently linked from B courses. Anything else? All right, that was grim and sad. Have a cat? Everybody better? We good? Moving on. All right, if you, for whatever reason, can't see, although it seems like we're in pretty good shape here, feel free to go up to the WAS. Important content is on the course website, and we are maybe recording this lecture, and if so, it will be available on YouTube. I will note that we are not going to do that for every lecture. It's just for this first week while we have the overflow room going that we're going to record these things. So you are expected to show up. So I want to talk for 20 minutes or so about what is this course actually about. We dug into a lot of kind of conceptual issues when we were looking at those UIs earlier. Let's unpack that a little bit and think about what this course actually will look like. So this course is ultimately about reliably building very good interactive systems. And we can unpack that a little bit. So it's about consistently being able to go out in the world, find problems, and then solve those problems with technology. It is not, for instance, about building super robust solutions. That's kind of a software engineering question. It is not about building systems that are protected from hackers. That's a security question. It's not necessarily about building things that run really fast. That's a algorithmic question. This is about building applications, building software that really consistently solve real-world problems. This semester, the focus of projects is going to be on companion apps. So mobile applications that are used to interact and configure consumer electronics. And we'll talk a bunch more about that later in this lecture. The goal by the end of the semester is to build an interactive prototype. So something that is robust enough that you can take it and put it in front of users and have them try it and have them learn something about, you can learn something from their interaction with the system. But it is not necessarily the goal to build something that is bulletproof and like ready to ship, ready to monetize. That's not what we're doing. And then, unlike most computer science courses, we place this heavy emphasis on field work, prototyping, user testing, getting in there into the design bit of the problem and trying to pick that apart rather than the implementation bits of it. So all of the rest of computer science, you can worry more about the implementation parts. For us, there is implementation. There is a bunch of coding in this class. But really, the focus of the group project is on the design part of it. So this class is called User Interface Design because the title of the class was made back in like 1992 or something. But what it has evolved into in this department is kind of the introduction to all things human-computer interaction. So for the rest of the semester, I will basically be referring to this as an HCI course, not as a UID, UXD sort of course. And let's unpack that a little bit. So human, I mean a person, the person who's sitting there using the phone, using the desktop. I also could mean the groups of people. So there are applications like wikis and Facebook and Yik Yak that would be tremendously boring if you were the only person there, right? Like Yik Yak has no value to you as a disconnected standalone product, but because there are lots of people out there using it, suddenly it has some, value is a strong word, but it has something. There is the computer, and by the computer at this point, we mean any sort of computing device. So phones and tablets and PCs and Macs and whatever else you got, we'll do hickeys. You know, anything that has some technology in it, we're counting as a computer for our purposes. And then the interaction bit. So this is how the person, the human, tells the computer what it wants the computer to do, and how the computer replies and tells the person how it went. You know, yes, I did that for you. No, I didn't do that for you. And there's a bajillion different models of interaction. Some of them are, you know, mouse and clicking and keyboard. Some of them are the connect, wipe around gesture thing. There's lots of different types of interaction. And much of this course is about kind of picking through those and figuring them out. Yeah. So a part of human-computer interaction is the design of user interfaces. And by user interfaces, I mean any part of a piece of technology that allows the user to interact with the computer and for the computer to communicate results. That could mean something very traditional like this, where we have like widgets and a graphical user interface and drop downs and buttons and sliders and very exciting. But it also means a lot of other things these days. So it could include hardware design. So a Wiimote, for instance, is very much a user interface. It's an input device to a user interface. The Kinect is a user interface. Things with no screens have user interfaces. Things that are only connected to the internet and you program through the website, things like that have user interfaces. So lots of different ways to get at the interaction bit of working with a computer. But we're going to touch on all of them. That's the goal throughout the rest of this course. And so HCI is fundamentally the design, prototyping, and evaluation of user interfaces, where user interfaces is defined extremely, extremely broadly. One historical note here that I think is kind of interesting. We these days say human-computer interaction. There was a time in history where the field was known as CHI, computer-human interaction. And it is thought of as a kind of symbolic move that back in 2000-ish, the field kind of up and decided that now really the human part of this is first and the computer part of it is second. It's kind of what separates us from the rest of computer science. It really is about kind of bringing social science methods to computer applications. So why bother? Why study user interfaces? How much of a typical application do you think is UI as opposed to like pure backend or compute or storage or all the other things an application does? How much of it is the user interface? Thoughts?
50%.
How much?
50.
Seems like a reasonable guess. Any other guesses? It sucks that 50% is right because it's like the most obvious thing to guess. But yes, 50%. So about 50, you know, this is an empirical question. You can go out, you can find out, you can look at code, and you can say how much of the code, how much of the effort, how much of a software project really is user interface. And it turns out that about 48% of it is user interface, and then about 37%, or it varies based on where you are in the process, but both the time and the total lines of code, it's about half of most projects are UI and UI related things. Okay, so why study this stuff? It's a major part, about 50% of most real programs. You, if you go out into industry, will indeed work on real software at some point. And the key thing to understand is that you will be building software for people that are not you, for people that are not your friends, for people that are not people who you deeply understand without having to ask any questions about it. Bad user interfaces cost people money, they cost people lives, they cost votes, they cost everything. And it's really, really hard to get user interfaces right by guessing or by intuition. We don't have any sort of solid predictive model for how a user interface will work. You can take your algorithm and you can do a proof and you can say this thing has this performance and it's going to scale like this. It doesn't really work that way with interfaces, at least not yet. So when you build a UI and you design something new, you really do have to kind of go out into the world and actually try it. And so that's a lot of what this class is about. So anytime you do a intro HCI class, the first thing you have to say is that if you screw up your user interface design, you will kill people. You will kill so many people. It does happen occasionally. So this is one example of a kind of dramatic user interface failure where there was an American Airlines flight back in 1995. They were flying from Miami to a city in Colombia, and they were cruising along, and the pilot went to type in the name of the airport they were going to into the little computer, and they hit R, and they took the first autocomplete option, and the plane, they thought they were going over here, and instead they ended up going to an airport over here. And the plane turned like this and flew right into a mountain. 160 people died. Not ideal. Whose fault is it? Who screwed up here? Yeah.
The guy who wrote autocomplete didn't expect that it would take an enter as soon as you could.
Okay, there's one person blaming the poor designer. Who else is to blame here? Yeah. Okay, so the pilot screwed up. That's not good. Who else we got to blame? Yeah.
Whoever wrote the navigation system to not take into account your surroundings.
The mountain.
Like wait for it to see the mountain, I guess.
Yeah, seems like something that would have come up as an edge case, like mountain. All right, who else is to blame? Yeah.
I think the person who made the autocomplete system because he didn't take into account human error.
Okay. There's one more party that I would like to cast blame on. Yes? There you go. Whoever trained these people, that's who I would blame. If I had to cast my vote, that's who I would throw under the bus. But there's a scary proposition in here, right? Where like some of you guys raised your hands and said, yeah, it's whoever designed this interactive system that's to blame. That's terrifying. I design interactive systems. I don't want to kill people, and nor do I want to be sued. So it's an interesting problem. Like, to what extent are the different parties involved in using a computer responsible for the behavior of that computer? It's interesting. If you're into reading academic papers, and if you're a 260A student, I highly recommend that you go read this paper. Paper by Harold Thimbleby from CHI 2013 titled Reasons to Question 7-Segment Displays. And it's fascinating. It's this paper that's all about how these stupid little like ubiquitous 7-segment displays kill like 200 people a month in various ways. It's very interesting stuff. But anyway, they're used in flights, they're used in medical devices, they're used in rescue equipment, and they're really, really hard to read. So for those of you who have used some like Fluke multimeters, what does this say? Anybody? Yeah.
Over limit.
Yeah, so it's over limit or overload. But if you didn't know that, you could very easily think it was 70. Yeah. So very different things, and you have to know how to parse these things in order to use them. So there you go. You're going to kill people. Really, you're not going to kill anybody. Nobody ever kills anybody designing a user interface unless you happen to be in like airplane engineering. What you will do is piss everybody off. That is what user interface designers really do when they screw up. And so we have this notion in HCI and usability of a 4 or 5 minute error, which is when you had somebody cruising along, getting their work done, and then they stumble on a usability problem, and then they have to figure out that they made a problem, and then they have to figure out how they fixed it, and then they're going to go check Facebook, and then they're going to post some other things, and then what's going on Twitter, and what's for dinner tonight, and then sometime they come back to their task. And all of that time that they just lost, that the company lost, that the productive task lost, is your fault, UI designer. You did something bad that broke the person's flow, that broke their concentration, and these things add up. So say you've got a company, with 100 people in it, and this only happens 2 times a week. The software is so nearly perfect that they only stumble 2 times a week. Still, you're talking about a man-month of time every year, which is massive. You're talking about tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of resources being lost to this absolutely trivial mistake that comes up 2 times a week. So more than anything, when you do user interface design, if you respect people's time, if you respect how people go about their business, it's on you to make these things right. Like, somebody has to be thinking about these things and not making the entire world sad. Cool? Thoughts, questions, anger? Okay. So how do we do that? It doesn't just kind of magically spring forth out of your head. There's no way, like I said, to be sitting in your dorm room or to be sitting in your office or to be sitting anywhere that doesn't have people and come up with the right user interface to solve a design problem. It just doesn't work that way. And so what we advocate for in this course, and what most of the world advocates for at this point, is an iterative design process where you repeatedly design solutions, prototype low fidelity implementations of those solutions, and then put it in front of real people and see how it goes. Run a user test, show it to an expert, that sort of thing, just to get a feel for whether your design is a good idea or not. And you continue to kind of repeat this cycle, going from super, super low fidelity paper sketches, things like that, into something a little more high fidelity, and eventually at the end of the day you end up with an actual program in software, actually written code, very fancy. But the actually write some code part of this course doesn't come until way, way late in the course, relatively speaking, at least for the group project. We will have some side assignment earlier. So there are these 3 basic steps. We just kind of went through those. I'm going to dig into it a little bit more, and the whole first week of this course is about this topic, basically. So task analysis and contextual inquiry are how you go out in the world and find out whether, what problems exist. So say you get hired as a consultant to go and take care of, there's this productivity lag at this company, and they've got some problem. You go out, you observe existing practices, you create scenarios of actual use, you create models that give you some insight into how your customers work, and then you learn. You are learning about your potential customer. Now, if I kick you out of the course because you didn't make it into enrollment, remember this. This is the most important 5 words in the entire HCI world. So if you get nothing else out of this course, get this. You are not the user, okay? Whatever you think you know about the user, you may be right, you may be wrong, but you have to go out there and actually get in people's business to figure out what they do, why it works, why it doesn't work, things like that. Okay? The process of rapid prototyping, just at a high level, is to build mock-ups, so sketches, storyboards, things like that. We'll talk about that next Tuesday. Then move into really super low fidelity interactive user experiences, so things like paper prototypes, video prototypes, which we'll be doing quite a bit of video prototyping in this course, I think. And then you move into kind of interactive design tools. It used to be that everybody would use Flash. These days, most people just build a website, kind of slap something together in Dreamweaver to be the interactive prototype, or use a friendlier language like JavaScript. Hint, hint. We'll be talking more about that in a minute. And then eventually you move into full-on production where you're writing your honest-to-God app in Android or iOS or whatever you're doing. Okay? And then finally, you whip back around and you evaluate the thing. You take it out into the field and you say, did this work? Was it a good idea? there are lots of different ways to do that. The sort of lowest cost way to do it is to evaluate something analytically. So it is to take it to another expert and have them kind of go through a checklist of like what makes an interface good and what makes an interface bad. There's a usability inspection method called heuristic evaluation that we will dig way into this semester. That's on the kind of cheaper end. On the much more expensive end, you have things like testing with your real target users. And I should clarify that because that always confused me when I was an undergrad taking HCI courses, cheap versus expensive in this sense. What we are talking about here is time. Time. If you run a company, time is absolutely everything. And so the time it takes to do a heuristic evaluation is like an afternoon. The time it takes to run a real user study might be 3 weeks, and like 100% time of your UX person for those 3 weeks. So from a like HR running your company standpoint, wildly, wildly expensive, even if you're only paying your participants $6 or whatever. So yeah, that's that. We'll talk a lot about heuristic evaluation, and we'll talk a little bit about how you like build real usability labs for the like really serious business of going out and testing user interfaces. So again, the goals of this course are to learn how to design, prototype, and evaluate user interfaces. And I can tell you from experience that like all of this stuff will be super, super, super important to you if you want like a not crappy job. There are crappy jobs and there are not crappy jobs. If you want a not crappy job, you want to be able to focus on a lot of these things: the design questions, the working with teams questions, the building systems that really address user needs. The reason that I think this is interesting for your typical like undergrad coming out into the world is that this is how you move from like the coding job, which are good, they're very good software engineering jobs in this world, to the like product lead, design lead, director sort of positions, is by having an understanding of how this part of the computer science world works, knowing how to build products that really address user needs, knowing how to test those things, knowing how to empirically convince biz dev and marketing and the rest of your engineers and blah, 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 that this is the right thing to be building. Crucially, crucially important to like actual jobs. So for better or for worse, I will be focusing throughout the semester on like how you become a more useful member of Silicon Valley, because that is my world. Tell me on Piazza what your aspirations are, because really I'm curious. Like, what sorts of jobs do you guys want to go out in the world and do? And what do you want to take from this class to help you get to those careers, to get to that next level of study? Like, tell me on Piazza and indeed on the course petition what you're hoping to get out of this class, because I want to know. So how does this fit into the overall computer science curriculum? We've talked about this a little bit, but most courses in CS are about learning algorithms and technology and techniques and how to like build things. CS160 is more about applying computer science. So as computer science is sort of applied mathematics, HCI is sort of applied computer science. It's about taking the techniques and technologies developed by the rest of the CS world and applying them to real-world design problems. We do assume that you are comfortable programming. There will be a lot of JavaScript programming in this class. By the way, we're programming in JavaScript. If you don't like JavaScript, drop the course. But heads up, the course is in JavaScript this semester. And think in this course of technology as a tool rather than technology as an end. Technology is the means to some other end, which is solving a real problem. Who here knows JavaScript? At least some JavaScript. Great, you'll be fine. It's gonna be great. Who can explain concisely the inheritance model in JavaScript? That's a joke. Nobody can concisely explain the inheritance model in JavaScript? Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the class project. How am I doing on time? Oh, we're golden. Everything is wonderful. So the bulk of your time this semester, in addition to the readings and the individual assignments and the programming and the blah, 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 is going to be spent on this big course project. And the theme for the course project is sort of the Internet of Things. So you've heard this buzzword, no doubt. In particular, I'm focusing on the consumer Internet of Things. So household and office and car, if car interests you, wearable, if wearable interests you, devices targeted at people like you or office workers or professionals rather than, say, industrial applications, which is kind of the other half of the Internet of Things. But up here we have the Nest thermostat, drop cam, Philips Hue light bulb. These are all 3 internet-connected smart home devices that do cool things. The Hue lets you set light levels based on where you are in your house and change the color and blah, blah, blah. The Nest made like $2 billion freaking dollars being sold to Google. So if nothing else, they did that. And Dropcam is kind of changing the way people think about home security right now. And the idea here is that connected devices are everywhere. Thermostats, light bulbs, activity monitors, touchscreens on your refrigerator, Bluetooth padlocks, which I bought the other day, and I'm waiting for it to show up from Kickstarter. That's going to be very exciting. The list is growing, and it's endless. It's really interesting. This, however, is not in any way, shape, or form a device design course. We have one of those. Bjorn teaches it. It happens in the fall. It's called Interactive Device Design, and it's a great class. This is not that. This is a UX design class. And so we are going to focus on one tractable little bit of this, which is how you build the companion apps, the mobile applications that live on your smartphone and that let you interact with the smart device. And this is really super, super important. Like flashy product, device design sells products. Good companion apps keep products being used. And so if nothing else, I'm giving you one wildly marketable skill in this class, which is that you're going to learn how to do this thing right, how to build good mobile companion apps to work with IoT devices. So a little bit about what we're going to do here. You're going to have to devise some IoT experience that needs an associated companion app. We will prototype the app. We will not prototype the device unless you want to. You're welcome to do it if you want to, but it will not be a part of the class. But you will have to, as part of the experience design portion of this course, imagine what your device is, be it some exotic wearable or a home appliance or whatever it is. Your group will have to come up with that thing and then do the design of that thing, not the implementation, and then do the design and implementation of the companion app. Target user group cannot be overly broad, no college students, and it must solve a real-world problem. Any questions about the project so far? Okay. Platform for the project is Canoma.js. So this is the kind of graphical runtime and JavaScript engine that I work on in my day job, and that is super cool for doing a lot of things. It is JavaScript based. You'll get to play around with JavaScript. You can use it to develop apps for Android, iOS, embedded Linux, Windows, and OS X. Plan on using your own devices for this if you can. Who here doesn't have like a smartphone? All right, that's a bad question. Who here doesn't have an Android phone? Okay. Of you that only have iPhones, how many don't have Apple developer credentials? Okay. There is some magic way for students to get Apple developer credentials, and we'll look into how that works. But basically, you can use the Canoma stack to develop for either. If you end up having to buy a cheap Android tablet or something, they're out there for like $100. Consider that your fee for this class, instead of a textbook, is going out and buying some crappy Android tablet in week 3 of the class. So there's that. We'll talk way, way more about the Canoma stack coming up in the coming weeks. But basically, it lets you do all the sorts of things you want to do: digital media, UI, hardware interface, and then communication between devices. One note on Marvell: if you know Sitar Jadai Hall, right across the street here, that's the 2 co-founders of Marvell. That's where I work. Isn't that fun? And so we'll talk a lot about this. Sections this week will be a little bit about like getting started with Studio, Sonoma Studio, which is the IDE we'll be using this semester, and showing you how to like simulate something very basic. So just as like the Android simulator lets you run things on the desktop, Sonoma Simulator lets you run things on your Mac or your Windows machine. Cool? Grand. The way teams are going to work is that we will form your teams for you, groups of 4 to 5. You have no say in that. Sorry, that's how it works. And the team project will be cumulative throughout the course of the semester. So you'll come up with one idea and then keep iterating over that idea over the course of the semester. Which brings us to one really important point. If you're wishy-washy about whether you're going to take this class at the end of like week 1 or week 2, really drop early, don't drop late, because you're going to end up screwing over your team if you drop too late. All right, a few brief notes about course mechanics, including the first set of assignments, and then we will be done. So we assume that you coming in here are comfortable programming. I don't necessarily assume that you know JavaScript. That's only fair if you don't. But I assume that you are comfortable programming and willing to learn a new programming language. So get out there and learn some JavaScript. It'll be fun. We will have individual programming assignments that will both kind of assess your ability to do these things and prime you for the project. So I don't want everybody like getting to the interactive prototyping part of this course and then realizing they have no idea how to program anything. So we will build our way up to that over the course of the first couple months. Sections are super, super important in this class. There's way too much to cover for me to cover it all in depth. So the readings are super important and the sections are super important. And you also need to commit to working with your assigned team on your project for the course of the semester. If you're nervous about like working with people, 1, this is not the class for you. 2, drop. 3, that's kind of sad. Like, get excited about working with people. All right, office hours. I'm going to hold my office hours right after class, Tuesday, Thursday. I have no idea where yet. I think today I'm just going to go stand in a meadow. If people want to gather around me, like I'll be in a meadow somewhere. Really, I'm going to stand between Echeverry and Soda. So if you need to find me, I'll be out there. Hopefully, I will arrange some real office at some point. And then here's everybody else's office hours. This is up on the course website. And I'll have these guys fill it into Piazza also. So that's cool. Sections start tomorrow. The first half of the semester, sections will be kind of about using the Sonoma platform and the course materials, of course. And then the second half of the semester will be design reviews for your group projects, plus additional course materials. Attend any section tomorrow, first come, first served. Make sure you at very least push your way in to sign in. And GSIs can't help you get into the class. That's all me. Good luck. All right, class homepage, right here. Go there. Shouldn't leave yet. I'm about to tell you all the assignments. It's going to be very exciting. Course homepage has the schedule and links to all the outside technologies we're using. So links to Piazza and Hackster and the Sonoma forum and everything else that you'll be expected to use. Readings are super way important to the class. Make sure you do your reading every day before class. There will be reading responses due before lecture. The reading response for this week will be used as part of your admissions criteria. So not necessarily the quality thereof, but the fact that you bothered to do it. So make sure you do the reading response this week. Readings will be linked from the website and B courses. And then every time, this will be a big part of your class participation grade. Make sure you do the reading responses. If you want to get a hold of us, do it on Piazza. For programming questions, we're going to use the Sonoma forums. We have a CS160 forum set up there so that you can get technical support not only from the course staff, but also from the Sonoma team at Marvell. We'll be chiming in to support you. Participation in both of these forums will be a part of your participation grade. So don't worry that you're not going to get credit for things that happen here. Counts just the same as Piazza. Don't email us. I won't read it. Just put it on Piazza. That's how you get a hold of us. You can mark questions as private if you need to. So if you want to talk to the course staff directly, just flag it as private. But if there's any chance that what you're asking could like help the rest of the world, help everybody else in the class, leave it public and let people see the answer. Running quickly through this, 3 individual programming assignments during the first half of the semester, 3 individual design assignments, the group project through most of the semester, and then we will do self-assessment within groups so that we can figure out who's contributing the most to groups and who's slacking and blah, blah, blah. We will catch you. That's how we do. 10% participation, 25% individual assignments, 25% midterm, 40% group project. No late assignments. Individual assignments will lose a third per day. Group assignments will not be accepted 1 moment late. Not interested in it. We just have to kind of keep everybody in lockstep. Reading assignments will not be accepted late. Do them before the lecture, submit before the lecture, because the point is that you come prepared to discuss. Every lecture is going to be as interactive as I can make it in a room of this size. So I'll do lots of yelling at you people and expecting you to yell back. And then everything that's due this week, including individual design assignment on Friday, don't turn it in late, because then I will think that you don't care about this class and I'll drop you. So there. Don't cheat, seriously, just don't do it. The good news is it will be really hard for you to cheat on the programming assignments. Good luck finding existing solutions to programming assignments in Canoma. And if you cheat more than once, we kick you out of Cal. Don't do it. All right, quickly going to run through things that are on the course website. These are the assignments for the next week. So here's what the schedule on the website looks like. If you use your fancy phone or computer, you can go to pack.h.berkeley.edu/CS160 and find the schedule. Every day we'll have just kind of a list of what's out, what's coming in, what's due. Do the course petition by end of day Thursday. Everybody needs to do this, whether you are in the magic 25 people that got enrolled or you are on the wait list. Everybody has to do this. If you don't do it, we'll drop you. This is used, 1, to decide who gets into the course, and 2, it's also going to be used to pair people up into their groups. So even if you're like a shoo-in to get into the course, fill everything out carefully, because we really want to like put a lot of thought into who goes into what group. Reading response, the first reading for this Thursday is the task-centered design process. It's like the super lightest, easiest read in the history of reading assignments. I would feel bad if I made you read something really hard and then dropped you from the class. So, so go read this. It's a very brief introduction to this design cycle that we're talking about and kind of how you actually do it. And then go on and do your reading response. This is on B courses. We will be grading these things on a scale of 0 to 3, where 2 is like, yeah, you did fine, and 3 is like, you did great, and 1 is like, really, and 0 is you didn't bother. So scale of 0 to 3. Hopefully we'll be getting a reader at some point who will be reading these things. Otherwise, your poor GSIs will have to deal with you every day. Peggy's already sad, I can tell. Individual design assignment 1, due this Friday, part 1. And you can read about it on B courses, where it is currently published, and then I'll also add a link from the website. But the idea is that I want you to go out into the world and find 2 non-college student individuals that you can interview about the challenges that they face using technology in either the home or office. This could be about smart home technology. It could be about kind of dumber home technology. But anybody that like uses technology at work or in the home, go out and interview them. No college students. And just go out and talk to people. You're going to have to do it over the course of this semester, whether you like it or not. So just go find folk. It turns out there's this like big-ass city right over there. And if you just wander around it, it's full of people. So go find some of those people and talk to them. The way that you submit this thing, you're going to submit it on B courses just as a PDF for this first assignment. But you will submit like what you learned from the interview and then pictures of you with your random people you found. And I will know if they are college students. I can tell. I also know when it's your parents, by the way, which seems to happen a lot. So anyway, there is individual assignment number 1. There's also going to be a individual programming assignment out. This will not be due until next Friday, the 30th. So if you want to hold off on that for a few days, feel free. Basically, the idea of it is to build a very basic temperature conversion app. Input a temperature in one scale, convert it to another scale. Super simple sort of stuff. I will be posting some Canoma tutorials for you guys over the course of this week to help you figure out how to cobble together the bits and pieces for that. So if you want to wait until kind of everything is in place, wait until this weekend, and then everything will be kind of where it needs to be. And then basic setup and getting started will be covered in section this week. Any questions about assignments, concerns, fears? I saw fear when I put this slide up. Tell me what you're feared of. Yes?
Is there an extra workload for CS268 versus 160?
Good question. I haven't decided yet. My suggestion for now is that those of you who are enrolled in 260A, so almost every day of the course, I will post the reading and then optional readings. For now, I suggest that the 260A students do the optional readings, treat them as if they were required. And I may, at my discretion, starting next week, put in a reading response for the 260A students for those assignments. Other than that, it's the same deal. You will be interspersed into groups the same as everybody else. The project is exactly the same, but I do want you to get maybe a little bit more in-depth on the readings. So that's the only difference. Anything else? Nobody's voicing their fears? Can you handle this? Can you go out and find people? Yeah.
Is it a problem if we use non-college student coworkers?
No. It's convenient. That's your reward for having a job. Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. So what I would do is like think about who you can not annoy and who would like actually be interested in talking with you about like home and office technology. So it's probably like not the crazy person on Telegraph, but maybe you can find like somebody, I don't know, go knock on doors of office buildings, go find people here, talk to friends of the family, things like that. That's my suggestion. Yeah. What's that? What? Yeah, sure. Professors aren't college students. Yeah.
Are grad students okay?
No. No bueno. Yes. As long as you can get a picture of them engaging with you. So Skype would be okay, phone's not okay. All right, last bit of business. Seriously, if you don't want to be in this class, drop the class. If you do want to be in this class, fill out the course petition. Let us know why you want to be in this class. And I really want to get as many of you who are enthusiastic about this class into it as possible. Thank you. See you Thursday. Yes, if you haven't signed in, do it. If you have our sign-in sheet, give them back. Hi.
Needs to run out really quickly. She is not on the wait list,
okay.
But it's not in the list, so she just wrote her name.
Okay, that's fine. Can she get on the wait list?
Yeah, she
Okay.
would try doing it tonight.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. No problem.
You know how big the wait list is? Like, is it like maxed out right now?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't
Because like currently I'm in 189 right now, but I'd rather get to this class right now.
Oh, well, so there's no.
I'm not currently waitlisted.
Sure. So right now we have 244 people waitlisted and about 70 slots for them.
Yeah.
So not everybody on the wait list will make it in. I have no idea about the mechanics of getting on the wait list.
Which doesn't matter, like in terms of like.
In terms of where
I
you
just did everything like aside from being on the wait list, it will be fine. Like, will I know whether or not I can get in? Or is it more like you guys are gonna just put the people in yourselves?